Hello, everyone. My name is Don, the movie reviewer, and today we're going to be talking about a movie that is directed by Pedro Almodovar, and it is called Pain and Glory.
¿Y qué es? ¿Drama o comedia?
No lo sé. Eso no se sabe.
A tu vera, siempre a la verita tuya, siempre a la verita tuya, hasta que de pena muera.
Buen viaje. Muchas gracias por venir, de verdad.
Pain and Glory is a movie that stars Antonio Banderas and Penelope Cruz. I caught wind of this movie because I looked it up on Google. I was bored. I was looking for interesting movies to watch. And this movie popped up on my radar because it has a 97% score on Rotten Tomatoes. Now, when you look at that score on Rotten Tomatoes, that is a very high score. And that intrigued me. So I decided to go see this movie. And the only movie I've ever seen of this director's was a movie called The Skin I Live In. And that movie, to me, was a very weird movie. I am not familiar with this guy's filmography, but I was intrigued because of the critic rating and the positive reviews. So I decided to go watch this at an AMC theater, and I did. And does it deserve a 97% score on Rotten Tomatoes? Let's find out. Pain and Glory is a movie about a man named Salvador who is a film director, and he is suffering from a lot of issues, not only mental issues, but physical issues, and this is illustrated at the very beginning of the movie. Normally, I do not like narration in movies. I love for things to be told to me visually instead of verbally. But with this, at the beginning, the way they illustrate Antonio Banderas' character Salvador, the way they illustrate what he's going through in the movie at the beginning is told in narration, but it's told in a very interesting way. The way the visual style presented itself along with the exposition and the narration, it felt like I was in a classroom studying about some person in history who just happened to be a film director, and this visual style with the narration, the way it was illustrated, it was projected in a way to where it made sense. It made me understand the character, like I said, not only emotionally but physically as well. And it presented a lot of information that I thought was baffling at first, but like I said, it made me feel like I was in a classroom doing research about a person, and that really engaged me. That made me more engaged in the character Antonio Banderas was playing throughout the movie. And so the acting that came along with Antonio Banderas' performance, he has back problems. He had spinal surgery, and in this movie, Antonio Banderas gives a fantastic performance because we can see in moments when he's getting in and out of a cab, he's being very careful with his back. So with that exposition that was presented at the beginning, along with Antonio Banderas' performance here of him selling, this character and his pain physically and emotionally, it resonated with me because of that information we got at the beginning and because of Antonio Banderas' performance. So all of that coming together, it really worked for me. And it was great. I really enjoyed all of those elements coming together and crafting a character that to me felt real. Another thing that I really like about this movie is how it presents a series of flashbacks giving us some information about Salvador, Antonio Banderas' character's life. The way that is presented in this movie is exceptional because it's at the very beginning, so I don't think it's a spoiler, but we see Antonio Banderas, and immediately we can kind of like feel his pain because it's one of those melodramatic things where he's sitting in a pool in the bottom of the pool in the deep end. He's got his eyes closed and he's just floating there. And then visually they show us the scar on his back from him getting spinal surgery. And then we go to this flashback of this boy and Penelope Cruz. And it's a very lovely scene. And then it cuts to Salvador. So then it makes that connection. It doesn't have like subtitles on the screen illustrating to the audience what time period this is, where they currently are located, and all that stuff. So it gives us a visual narrative into the psyche of the Salvador character, which is great, and I loved it. I do believe that all of the flashback sequences are told in a very visually appealing way, because more often than not, when I watch movies and they do flashbacks that don't illustrate to the audience that it is a flashback, it just jump cuts back and forth. And sometimes that can feel a bit jarring and confusing. And with this, I think it's really presented in a way where it works, because at the beginning it illustrates, okay, whose flashback this is, and it does it visually perfectly. Then it constantly happens throughout the movie where we're jump cutting from the past to the present. And it doesn't feel jarring at all. It flows very smoothly, and it gives us a lot of information into the psyche of the Salvador character and his mental state and where he's currently at in his life. And all of these like past experiences come flooding back into his mind, causing him some pain, but also some memories of his former glory. So I think that's why this movie is called Pain and Glories, because you deal with a lot of pain in your life, but along with that pain, there are glorious moments that happen in a person's life. So, you got to take the good with the bad. I will also say that this movie is a movie within a movie. And I say that because this movie has sequences where I feel like it's talking about itself, because there are a few moments in this movie that I find very funny. Like there's a scene where I think the actor that Antonio Banderas has a past grudge with is performing this play, and I don't know how this comes up, I forgot, but the actor or someone says that this is a melodrama. And the actor, whoever said that in the movie, is talking about, the play that they're in. But then it's talking about the movie itself, because as I'm watching the movie, it does feel melodramatic. It kind of feels a bit over the top. It's flooding the audience with characters, emotions, and a lot of people are depressed, and it's a pretty depressing movie. But then there's another moment in this movie where there's this doctor who is a fan of Salvador's work, his past movies, and he's trying to encourage him to get back on the horse. He's like, when are you gonna start writing again? And Antonio Banderas' character Salvador, he's like, I can't physically do it, and mentally he can't do it because he's not in the right place. And then so there's a moment in the movie where this doctor who's talking to Antonio Banderas says, you working on a new piece, and is it a drama or is it a comedy? And Antonio Banderas replies with, well, you never know until, and then he like passes out because he's on the operating table. And I'm thinking what the character was going to say is that, is it a drama or a comedy? You never know until it's over. And this movie, like I said, is very melodramatic. It feels kind of like a soap opera, just flooding you with characters' emotions, but it was exceptionally told visually and performance-wise. And so I accept the melodrama, even though it may feel a little cringeworthy, a little, heavy-handed, or like, oh, this is just overwhelmingly sad. Or there are funny moments in here too. It's a drama and it's a comedy. It has both. So the movie is speaking for itself from a narrative point of view, visually, and verbally. It's telling you exactly what this is, but also at the same time it's presenting this to you in an exceptional way, to where it's very engaging and it locks it locks me in from beginning to end. So I'm sold all the way through, even if I do feel like some of this material is melodramatic. But I'll let it go because life is sometimes melodramatic. There's a lot of ups and downs, and there's a lot of pain and glorious moments in life, which I feel like this title is a perfect representation of that, because we do see this character go through a lot of pain, but also a lot of glorious moments. And so it's like you have to figure out exactly what you choose to accept and what you choose to decline. And the only negative thing I can say about this is there's a sequence in this movie where Antonio Banderas' character was reconciling with his mother, and it was a little bit slow. I was a little bored during that moment, but it made sense because we see the flashbacks with him and his mother, and then you fast forward to the present time, and he's dealing with his mom, and it's a little slow, but I feel like it was necessary because his character needed that time to reconcile with his mother, which was great. So I was following the character's journey, and it was very engaging from beginning to end, even though at the end I felt it was a little slow, but I was engaged. I was locked in. It sucked me in. I love the melodrama. This movie is a comedy and it's a drama at the same time. And it's just a meditation on real life, because sometimes life is boring and nothing happens. But then a lot of the time there are a lot of glorious moments that happen that live with us forever. And then there are some moments of pain that live with us forever, but it's up to you to decide whether you want to accept the pain or the glory or both. Sometimes it's good to have both, because then that creates you as a person. And that's all I have to say. So as always, thank you for watching, and I will talk to you next time.